In the crimson and sapphire glare of the police lights, the man behind the wheel was no longer Judge Solomon Hayes. His 2 decades on the bench, his towering reputation, his very name, all of it dissolved into the night. To the state trooper swaggering toward his window, he was just a black man in a car that was too nice for him. Judge Hayes kept his hands high and visible on the steering wheel, a calm island in a sea of strobing chaos. "Good afternoon. Trooper, is there a problem?" he asked, his voice steady. Trooper Wade Tillman leaned down, his eyes performing a quick, contemptuous inventory. The hand-stitched lapel, the silk tie, the polished dashboard. He ignored the judge's question. "License and registration," Tillman said, his voice flat and bored, the verdict already rendered. "Got a BOLO for a stolen vehicle. This one fits the bill." He sneered, a familiar twist to his lips. "Another one, all chromed up, thinking he's king of the road." The judge's composure was a fortress. "The vehicle is mine, Trooper. The papers are in the glove box. I will retrieve them for you now." Tillman took a half-step back, his body language shifting from lazy arrogance to coiled threat. He unsnapped the keeper on his holster. "Forget the glove box. Get out of the car. Hands where I can see them." It wasn't a request. It was a command meant to break a man down. Judge Hayes had seen this script play out 1,000 times from his bench. Arguing on the roadside with a man like Tillman was a fool's errand. He opened the door and stepped out, his movements deliberate and slow. Just as he straightened his 6-foot frame, a second cruiser tore up the shoulder, spitting gravel. A younger trooper, Diaz, got out just in time to watch her partner shove the judge hard against the trunk of his own sedan. The fine wool of his suit scraped against the dusty metal with a sickening sound. "I have a constitutional right to know what crime I am suspected of," the judge stated, his voice unwavering. He refused to give Tillman the satisfaction of seeing even a flicker of fear. Tillman ignored him completely, leaning into the open driver's side door and assaulting the judge's privacy. His thick fingers rifled through legal briefs, tossing a bound court document on the floor with a dismissive grunt, leaving a greasy thumbprint on the cover. A cold, hard knot of fury tightened in Solomon Hayes' gut. "Trooper," the judge's voice cut through the air, each word a perfectly sharpened dart. "I do not consent to this search." That was a magic word. Tillman spun around, his face lit with predatory glee. "Obstruction," he snarled. "Now you're interfering with a police investigation." Before the judge could brace himself, Tillman grabbed his arm and viciously twisted it behind his back. The first handcuff snapped shut, its cold steel biting deep. After a brief, almost imperceptible hesitation, Trooper Diaz moved in to help secure the other. The judge did not fight. He did not raise his voice. He simply locked eyes with Tillman. "You are making an error of catastrophic proportions." From the corner of his eye, he saw a college-age girl filming the entire encounter on her phone. Good. The back of the cruiser was a cage of profound humiliation. 2 decades of jurisprudence, of weighing evidence and delivering sentences, undone by a state trooper's bruised ego and cheap prejudice. In Tillman's small world, he wasn't a judge. He was a conquest. But as the car sped away, Judge Hayes wasn't just angry. He was already presiding over the case in his mind. Trooper Tillman was about to learn what it felt like to be the one in the dock. For nearly 2 hours, Judge Hayes sat on a molded plastic chair in a soulless interrogation room at the Oak Haven Police Department. The cuffs were gone, but the raw, red welts they'd left throbbed on his wrists. His wallet and judicial ID sat on the corner of the metal table, deliberately ignored. His composure, the very discipline that defined his career, was seen here as the arrogant defiance of a common criminal. His polite requests for a phone call were met with smirks and silence. "This one thinks he's a real hot shot," he heard an officer mutter outside, followed by a low chuckle. The judge's face remained a mask of impenetrable calm. Finally, the door swung open and Tillman leaned against the frame, arms crossed, a smug, proprietary look on his face. "All right, Your Majesty," he began, his voice a weaponized drawl. "Ready to drop the act and tell me what you were really doing back there? Checking out the rest stop for your next big score?" Judge Hayes lifted his gaze to meet the troopers. "I was on my way to Claremont City for a judicial reform summit. I stopped to confirm the route on my phone. That is the beginning, the middle, and the end of the story. Tillman let out a short, ugly bark of a laugh. Right. You guys always have a story ready, don't you? The insult hung in the stale air. The judge remained silent. He knew this game. Tillman was goading him, desperate for an outburst to retroactively justify his assault. He had seen this tactic break lesser men. He would not be broken. A short while later, a new figure appeared in the doorway. A woman with sharp, weary eyes and salt and pepper hair pulled back in a severe bun. Sergeant Anna Sharma. Her gaze swept the room, taking the ignored ID and composed man in the chair. How long has he been in here? She demanded of the desk officer down the hall. Close to 2 hours, Sarge, came the lazy reply. Tillman brought him in. Obstruction. Sergeant Sharma's brow tightened. She walked directly into the room. Sir, were you informed of your Miranda rights? I was, Sergeant, the judge replied, his diction precise. I was also denied my right to legal counsel. 3 times. She studied him, a flicker of doubt crossing her face. There was something in his tone, the complete absence of fear, the sheer authority. That didn't fit the picture. State your full name for the record, please, she said, her voice now cautious. Solomon Hayes, he answered, and I strongly suggest you run that name through your judiciary database before this department's liability increases any further. From the hallway, Tillman chuckled loudly. He's been playing the I'm a big deal card since the highway, Sarge. Don't let him get to you. Sergeant Sharma shot Tillman, a look that could strip paint. Shut your mouth, Tillman. She turned on her heel and marched to the nearest computer terminal. Her fingers flew across the keyboard. The judge watched her stiff back, waiting. A few seconds passed, and then her entire body went rigid. Sergeant Sharma pushed herself away from the computer, as if the screen had physically burned her. Her face was a pale, rigid mass of disbelief. She walked back toward the interrogation room, her steps slow, each one landing with the weight of a guillotine blade. Tillman was still lounging in the hallway, that self-satisfied smirk plastered on his face. Sergeant Sharma ignored him. She keyed open the door. You mentioned a meeting, she said, her voice completely transformed, all traces of procedural authority replaced by a tight, formal dread. I did, the judge replied, his calm unshaken. A justice reform roundtable in Claremont City with the governor. Sharma took a short, sharp breath. The pieces of the puzzle didn't just click into place. They exploded, forming a picture of absolute catastrophe. And you are Superior Court Judge Solomon Hayes? He gave a single, deliberate nod. I am. The sound in the Oak Haven precinct died. The casual chatter, the ringing phones, the hum of the fluorescent lights, it all vanished into a sudden, crushing vacuum of silence. Your Honor, Sergeant Sharma finally said, the words cutting through the thick tension like a surgeon's scalpel. On behalf of this entire department, I offer my most profound apology. This is an indefensible, catastrophic failure on our part. Tillman jerked upright from the wall as if he'd been tasered. Wait, what? Your Honor? The smirk evaporated, replaced by a slack-jawed, gaping incomprehension. Sergeant Sharma turned to face him, her eyes blazing with a cold, contained fury that was terrifying to behold. You arrested a sitting state superior court judge, Tillman. You conducted an illegal search of his private vehicle, and then you brought him here and denied him his constitutional right to counsel. Her voice was dangerously low, each word a hammer blow of condemnation. Do you have any concept at all, of the career-ending bomb you just detonated? The blood drained from Tillman's face, leaving it a pasty, sickly gray. His entire world, built on swagger and prejudice, had just been leveled. His mouth open and closed like a fish, but no sound emerged. Down the hall, Trooper Diaz, his partner, stared at the judge with wide, horrified eyes, her face ashen. She looked like she was going to be physically sick. The silence in the room wasn't just quiet. It was absolute. Sharma turned back to Judge Hayes, her expression now a frantic scramble of damage control. Again, Your Honor, my deepest apologies. We can arrange an immediate escort to your meeting. You can have my personal cell phone right now. The judge gave a small, tired nod, the first sign of the ordeal's true weight. The phone call will be sufficient. Thank you, Sergeant. As Sergeant Sharma personally escorted him from the interrogation room, the entire atmosphere of the precinct had been violently altered. The smirks were gone, replaced by downcast eyes and a frantic, silent shuffling of paperwork. Officers who had swaggered past his room moments before were now staring intently at their computer screens, desperate to avoid his gaze. A thick, suffocating cloud of humiliation and raw fear hung over the entire squad room. Judge Solomon Hayes walked out of that building with his head held high, Sergeant Sharma trailing in his wake like a royal attendant, and every single person he left behind knew with chilling certainty that this was not the end. This was just the beginning. By nightfall, it was no longer an incident. It was a firestorm. The video from the student's phone had gone supernova. The clip was short, brutal, and impossible to deny. A composed, impeccably dressed black man standing calmly in handcuffs while an aggressive state trooper bellowed accusations at him. It rocketed from a handful of local shares to millions of views per hour. A digital wildfire consuming the internet. News networks seized the story, creating a visual that was a gut punch to the entire state. On one side of the screen was Judge Solomon Hayes' official portrait, dignified, respected, the very image of justice. On the other was a grainy, pixelated still from the video. The same man, humiliated, handcuffed behind his back. The contrast was so stark, so damning, that public outrage was instantaneous and overwhelming. #Fire Tillman trended nationwide. The governor's office, caught in political nightmare, released a panic statement promising a full, swift, and transparent investigation. By dawn, a crowd of protesters had already gathered outside the Oak Haven Police Department. But what seemed to ignite the most fury wasn't just a wrongful arrest. It was a look on Judge Hayes' face. It was a profound, unshakable, almost weary composure. People didn't just see a man being wronged. They saw a man who recognized the injustice with a lifetime of familiarity. In hours, he had become a living symbol of a sickness, so deep it could infect the highest levels of the legal system. Inside the Oak Haven precinct, the fallout was swift and merciless. Trooper Wade Tillman was summoned from his administrative leave, not for a review, but for a reckoning. He walked into the station chief's office to find Sergeant Sharma sitting beside a stone-faced captain from the state attorney general's office. On a large monitor on the wall, the video of him shoving Judge Hayes was playing on a silent, damning loop. "Sit down, Tillman," the captain said, his voice devoid of any warmth. Tillman sat. His usual swagger was gone, replaced by a nervous tremor in his hands. The captain let the video play for another 30 seconds before turning it off. The governor has seen this. The attorney general has seen this. Millions of citizens have seen this. What they see is a state trooper committing multiple felonies. He slid a file across the desk. Illegal search and seizure. Assault. Deprivation of rights under color of law. The DA is prepared to file federal charges that carry a minimum of 10 years in prison. The color drained from Tillman's face. I thought the vehicle was stolen." "You thought the man was black," the captain corrected him, his voice like ice. "And that was enough for you. Now you have two options. Option 1, we proceed with the prosecution. Your face will be on every news channel for the next year, and you will go to prison. Option 2, he slid a single piece of paper and a pen across the desk, is your unconditional resignation, effective immediately. You will surrender your badge and your service weapon. You will walk out of this building, and you will never work in law enforcement again. In exchange, the judge has agreed not to press personal charges. You have 60 seconds to decide." Silence. The only sound was the hum of the computer. Tillman stared at the paper, his world collapsing into a single sheet of white. His hand trembled as he reached the pen. He signed his name. "Your badge," the captain commanded. Numbly, Tillman unclipped the badge from his belt and placed it on the desk. The metal made a soft, final sound. "Your weapon." He unholstered his firearm, cleared it with shaking hands, and slid it across the polished wood. It was over. Sergeant Sharma watched the entire exchange without a word, her face an unreadable mask. The smirking in Oak Haven had officially stopped. And for Trooper Wade Tillman, the justice he had so casually denied to others had finally and irrevocably been served.